Hear. All persons having anything for the Honorable Diane Freniere, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court. Brian Walshe, your attendance shall be heard. Let's have the call of the Massachusetts Honorable Court. Please be seated. Put down.
Your Honor, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, Norfolk Superior Court, criminal indictment number 2023-0091. Defendant and counsel are present in court. Defendants represented by Attorney Larry Tipton and Attorney Kelli Porges. Commonwealth is represented by Attorney Greg Connor, Attorney Ann Yaz, and Attorney Tracy Cusick. Counsel, starting with the Commonwealth, kindly identify yourselves for the court and the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Greg Connor for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ann Yaz for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tracy Cusick for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. Kelli Porges on behalf of Mr. Walshe.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Larry Tipton for Mr. Walshe.
Please be seated. All right, I have two motions up here, one from each of you, and I'll address those in a minute.
You are unmuted.
So let me start by, excuse me, taking a drink of water. Let me start by listing what the court has reviewed in preparation for this sentencing to make sure that everything you think that I have reviewed, I have in fact received and reviewed. So I've received the parties' sentencing memos. That comprises one sentencing memo submitted, I think, yesterday or the day before, late in the day before, from the Commonwealth. The defense has provided a sentencing memo along with a supplement that I received this morning. I think that was filed yesterday after the close of the business day. I also have received various victim impact statements in writing, to include victim impact statement on behalf of the three minor children from the Department of Children and Family Services, DCF. I've also received victim impact statements written from Melissa Kirby and from Peter and Pam Kirby. And I sought out and shared with the parties and have reviewed various sentencing commission information, as well as guideline calculation from probation, as well as Mr. Walsh's carry and triple I, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I've now just received and will review, prior to deciding my sentence, a letter from Diana Walshe. As an initial matter, is there anything that the parties submitted that I didn't just now list that you expected me or want me to review before sentencing? Commonwealth first.
Your Honor, there will be a victim impact statement given by Anna's sister, Aleksandra Dimitrijevic, and she's prepared to give that to the court.
Okay, but as far as written materials, any other written materials that you are hoping me to review before I impose sentence?
No other written materials, and I just want to note, FTR is not on at this point in time, and I don't know if the court needs that on. I know we have a court reporter, and we're in good hands, but sometimes we've been running both.
All right, I thank you for pointing that out. We do, when we have the court reporter, that is the primary method of memorializing the events, but always good to have a backup, and I see that Madam Clerk has put it on now. For the defense, are there any other written materials that you wish the court to review?
You have everything.
All right, let me just take a moment to review this letter. All right. Thank you. We'll start with the Commonwealth's presentation of whatever victim impact statements that you wish me to hear orally.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would ask Aleksandra Dimitrijevic to address the court. Would you like her at the witness stand or from the podium?
In the witness stand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. You may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aleksandra Dimitrijevic, and I'm the sister of Anna Walshe. I am here today to represent myself and my mother. I want to share with the court how losing my sister in January 2023 has forever changed our lives and left us with an unbearable emptiness. Losing my sister Anna so unexpectedly has altered our world in ways we never imagined. Anna was not just my sister. She was someone I grew up with, someone who knew me in ways no one else ever will. I struggle with the grief that comes without warning, hoping every morning that this is all just a terrible dream. The most painful part of this loss is knowing her children must now grow up without their mother's hand to hold. They now face a lifetime of milestones, big and small, where her absence will be deeply and painfully felt. This tragedy has also devastated my mother. She has developed severe depression and chronic exhaustion. Every single day, she carries the weight of losing her daughter. Our entire family is still learning how to live with this emptiness. Holidays and birthdays are now silent reminders of her absence. Because of the circumstances of my sister's death, we were denied the opportunity to say a final goodbye and to observe our customs, adding a layer of profound, unfinished grief to our loss. Anna was a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Her life was unfairly taken. We miss her beyond words. While we recognize that no sentence can bring her back, we ask the court to consider the permanent, long-lasting impact this loss has had on our family, especially her children. We stand in agreement with the Commonwealth and their recommendations. Finally, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the investigators, the Commonwealth's office, and everyone who has worked tirelessly on this case. Your dedication to seeking justice for my sister has provided our family with a sense of support during our darkest hours. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share the full weight of this incomprehensible act. Anna will never be forgotten. We will carry her light and her memory with us forever. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Be careful.
Yes. Sorry.
Your Honor, we have no other victim impact statements other than the ones that we've submitted in writing.
All right, thank you. Right. I have read the Commonwealth sentencing recommendation, the written recommendation, but I'll have you state it on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth is requesting that the defendant be sentenced to a series of consecutive sentences on the charges to run from and after his federal case in which he received a sentence of 37 months in February of 2024. The first charge that the Commonwealth would seek an incarceration component on is count 003, and that the defendant be sentenced to 2.5 to 3 years. The second charge would be that he, on the misleading 002, to run from and after 003, that he receive a sentence of 18 to 20 years. And that the third charge, the murder, and the first degree, that the defendant be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole to run from and after 003 and 002. And Your Honor, if I may be heard in our argument.
Please.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you look at the facts of these three charges, each one calls for a harsh penalty. If you look at the illegal conveyance of a body, the defendant did not just, the person that he illegally conveyed was his wife and the mother of his 3 children. And he did it by removing her remains from the family home and placing them in buckets, in garbage bags, in dumpsters around the Commonwealth. He denied, as you just heard, her family the opportunity to have any customs or burial. There is no grave, there is no memorial. And he did this all in an effort to destroy evidence. On the misleading component, Your Honor, while we do mention the potential of probation, we put that in there only as data so that you understand the efforts that went in to trying to find Anna based on the defendant's series of lies. These lies were all done in an effort to cover up his crime and destroy evidence. We're also, while we put in that, we are not seeking a probation sentence, but we put it in there so that the court, if it wanted to contemplate one, understood there was an option to do it that would prevent the defendant potentially from trying to profit from this.
So the only mechanism for me, as I see it anyway, the only mechanism for me under the restrictions of state law,
Yes, Your Honor.
it's an either-or situation. That is, either I incarcerate him for an additional period of time, either concurrent or consecutive, or I put him on probation following the life sentence, or maybe it even starts today. But the only way that restitution can be achieved on count 2 is through a probationary sentence. So I don't think there's any other mechanism for me doing that. So I don't know how you achieve that goal if without a probationary sentence and mandating it as a condition of probation. And so I want the Commonwealth to be clear with me. You're making note of it in passing, but you are not asking me to put him on a probationary sentence. Is that correct?
We are not, Your Honor. It is data that you can use in order to determine the scope of his lies in which the police relied on them, and you can see the costs that went into investigating the disappearance of Anna Walshe, but we are not asking for probation on this matter.
And the same question with regard to the issue of restitution that I heard rumblings of yesterday.
Yes, Your Honor.
Same result?
Same result. It is, again, it's data for you in determining your sentence, but we are not asking for it.
All right, just wanted to be clear on that.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then on the murder, again, this was the murder of his wife and the mother of his 3 children. And the cover-up of this murder, Your Honor, deserves some analysis. If you look at the first internet search, which occurred at approximately 4:52 a.m. on the 1st, how to dispose of a body, and how they evolve into eventually 11:24 a.m., how to dispose of body parts after a murder, it appears the defendant at this point in time is committed to getting rid of evidence of the crime. And it leads to the shopping sprees later on that night at Lowe's and CVS and Stop and Shop. However, if you look at the internet searches on the second, how to dismember a body, and is a hacksaw the best tool to dismember a body? It's a reasonable inference he hasn't started the action yet. And it results in the second shopping spree to Home Depot that afternoon, which means that Anna Walshe has been dead in that basement for over 24 hours. The same home his children are in, the same home the babysitter's at, the same home his mother has come to visit. And in the evening between the second and the third is when the dismemberment occurs, and on the third we see him going to dumpsters, getting rid of the remains. In the defendant's sentencing memo, and I want to note, the defendant was represented by two excellent lawyers who are titans in this industry, who I have the highest respect for. They say the Commonwealth's recommendation is inhumane. I suggest that that's not the appropriate word choice, because if we were to look at that word, I would suggest that that describes the defendant's actions and the depravity of his actions of murdering his wife, dismembering her, and getting rid of her remains by throwing her away like garbage. The question might become whether or not this is a cruel and unusual punishment that the Commonwealth is recommending. And I direct your honor to one case. It's Cepulonis, Cepulonis versus the Commonwealth, 384 Mass 495 at 497. It's a 1981 case. To reach the level of cruel and unusual punishment, the punishment must be so disproportionate to the crime that it shocks the conscience and offends the notion of human dignity. I don't know if that's possible in this case, Your Honor, because human dignity was completely offended by the defendant's actions and how he treated his wife, how he disposed of her, and how he robbed her family and friends of the opportunity to bury her. There is no death certificate. The church will not allow a funeral to go on at this point in time. We are working on trying to work with the ME's office to see if we can get a death certificate to issue now, based on the conviction and based on the plea. And when I looked behind me after the closing arguments, I realized that that was the closest thing that those people had come to a wake, because they never got together to mourn her. And that happened 3 years later. So with that, Your Honor, the Commonwealth does make a punishment that we recommend to you. We recognize it's harsh, but we think it's appropriate based on the facts. And I appreciate your time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hear from the defense.
With respect to the first-degree murder conviction, although we made it clear from our memorandum that we do object to a life without parole sentence based on state and U.S. constitutional grounds, based on the Eighth Amendment, we understand the court has no discretion. With respect to indictments 2 and 3, you do. I think inhumane is the right word, respectfully. To sentence someone to prison posthumously to send a message is humane. It's dehumanizing him. Regardless of what happened in this courtroom, regardless of the convictions, regardless of what anyone believes about this person, he is a human. He is a father, he is a son, and he has been a friend to many. The life sentence is mandatory, but to do consecutive sentences, I think, is inappropriate and is inhumane. Anytime there is a death, a murder, a loss of life, it is horrible, whether it's a loved one or a stranger. And the legislature has provided, regardless of our disagreement, that a life sentence without parole is mandatory. But that does not negate that he is a human being. And I don't think sentencing him to on and after time is appropriate. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. What he was convicted of were atrocious acts. We've heard from her family, we've heard from her friends. Their pain is unimaginable, and I'm not demeaning that, but I have the opportunity to speak for Brian today. And I'm asking the court to sentence him in line with the guidelines and with the purpose of sentencing. Punishment, justice, prevention of future crimes, consecutive sentences, that's excessive and it doesn't meet those needs. So I'd ask the court to adopt the defendant's sentencing recommendation.
Just want to put on the record that the defendant, in making its argument with regard to the inhumane aspect of any consecutive sentences, cited to a case in its brief, Donovan. Donovan does not apply to this case. As an initial matter, Donovan related to a larceny involving a single act that resulted in 7 different victims being victimized. The SJC, that was, I think, a 1985 case. The appellate courts in Massachusetts have long since distinguished Donovan, even in the case of larcenies, which is not the case that's before me, to recognize that even Donovan relates only to a single act case and not one with one purpose. As you could argue, there was one purpose here, but more than one discrete offense. So I'm not persuaded by the logic of Donovan, even if it applied to this case, and even if it was as broad-reaching as the defense suggests in its sentencing memo, which the court finds it is not. There is no task facing a judge that is more important or more difficult than crafting an appropriate sentence. The legislature mandates that the only appropriate sentence for the jury's verdict, murder in the first degree, is life in prison without the possibility of parole. That sentence is immensely appropriate and just, given your murderous acts and the life trauma that you've inflicted upon your own children. As to counts 2 and 3, I have wide discretion in sentencing. I want to state my rationale for your sentences on those 2 counts on the record now. I have considered various factors with regard to my sentence for counts 2 and counts 3, to which you pled guilty on November 18th, 2025. Specifically, I've considered the severity of the crimes, their nature and circumstances, and your role in those crimes, the need to deter others from committing comparable crimes, and your prior criminal record, namely your federal fraud case. As to the latter, Your criminal history shows a long and well-documented history of deceitful and manipulative behavior. I've considered your character or lack thereof, your behavior, and your background. With regard to the nature and circumstances of the offenses, as to indictment 002, in the approximately 4 hours of interviews spanning 4 days, you concocted a detailed, completely fabricated story of what happened to Anna Walshe on January 1st, 2023, in order to cover up your murder of her and disposal of her body. Your lies triggered a multi-day, extensive missing persons investigation. A command center was set up in Cohasset and was manned by various law enforcement, to include the Cohasset Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police. And local and Massachusetts resources were deployed to Washington, D.C. to investigate at Anna's home. Because of your lies, thousands of hours of investigative resources were wasted and diverted from other deserving cases and investigations. As to the nature and circumstances of count 3, the improper disposal of Anna Walshe's body, the seriousness of your acts cannot be overstated. Your acts in dismembering your wife's body and disposing of her remains in multiple area dumpsters can only be described as barbaric and incomprehensible. You had no regard for the lifelong mental harm that your criminal acts inflicted on your then 2, 4, and 6-year-old sons, not only in taking their mother, but also, as is specific to this charge, in never being able to properly grieve that loss, to say goodbye to their mom. And I hear today the same is equally true of a sister who never was able to say a proper goodbye to her sister, a mother who never was able to say a proper goodbye to her daughter, and many friends who had the same loss. As to indictments 2 and 3, I have considered the sentencing guidelines, the aggravating factors. There are no mitigating factors in this case. And I also sought out and considered information from the Massachusetts Sentencing Commission, again, which I shared with the parties earlier this week, in particular sentencings in 2022 and 2023 of defendants who were convicted of murder and/or voluntary manslaughter, along with a Chapter 268, Section 13B conviction. This is not a guideline case. Finally, as to the first-degree murder conviction, I have considered the loss of the life of an innocent, remarkable woman, Anna Walshe, and its devastating impact on her children, as relayed to me in the letter from DCF, her family, as relayed to me in her sister's victim impact statement today, friends in their victim impact statements, in the community. In the trial testimony of Jem Mutlu and Alyssa Kirby, a little bit of Anna Walshe, her warm, powerful, and embracing spirit came to life in this historic courtroom. I have carefully listened to the moving victim impact statement, to the oral written sentencing arguments made by the Commonwealth and by Mr. Walshe. It's clear to me that Anna was a bright light in the lives of many people. She lifted people up. I am sure that nothing I say and no sentence I can impose, even a life sentence, will lessen the grief that Anna Walshe's family, her mother, sister, and 3 boys, extended like family, confidants, friends, and others have endured and will continue to endure. Although I consider the letter of Diana Walshe, I simply cannot reconcile the person Diana Walshe describes in her letter with the person who stands before me for sentence. Mr. Walshe, you can stand. Mr. Walshe, you will live with the guilt and burden of Anna Walsh's death for the rest of your life. As to count 1, the jury having convicted you of murder in the first degree, I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to indictment 2, lying to the police in connection with the investigation of a life felony, I sentence you to no less than 19 years, no more than 20 years, the statutory maximum, in prison to be served consecutive to the life sentence in 001. The legislature caps the maximum sentence for the improper disposal of a body at 3 years in state prison. As to indictment 003, the improper disposal of the body of your wife, Anna Walshe, I sentence you to no less than 2 years, 364 days, and no more than 3 years in state prison to run consecutive to the sentences in 001 and 002. I want to make one other notation with regard to the sentences that I'm giving today. Earlier in this case, I identified that there was an error in Mr. Walsh's III. That error persists to today. Specifically, so the record is clear, as I understand Mr. Walsh's prior federal sentence, he was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison. That sentence was to run concurrent with any state sentence that was given in this case. This morning, I asked probation to run his III again, and it is still incorrect. It is showing a 5-year probationary sentence. At my direction, the probation department in the last month, or perhaps a little bit longer, contacted the federal probation office in Boston to correct what I think is an obvious error in his III. It has not been corrected, and it stands still today as showing 5 years of probation as the sentence. To the extent that confuses anything in my sentencing, I want the record to reflect that, again, it's my understanding he was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison to run concurrent with this sentence that I'm now imposing today. Madam Clerk, you may impose the sentence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Walshe, a jury having returned a guilty verdict on charge 1, murder in the first degree, you were sentenced to the state prison for the term of your natural life. Count 2, witness intimidation, you having entered a guilty plea to that, sir, you are sentenced to 19 years, not less than 19, not more than 20 years, to run from and after your life sentence on count 1. On count 3, improper disposal of a body, you are sentenced to not less than 2 years and 364 days and not more than 3 years to run from and after the sentence on count 2. You will receive 1,076 days credit for time deemed served while awaiting the disposition of this matter. All fees and fines in this matter are waived. You're all set, Mr. Walshe. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Look, rise.
Madam Clerk.
Goodbye.
Hello, hello, hello. Check, 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 check. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mom, for what? That's crazy.
Aleksandra. The last name is Dimitrijevic. His name's Aleksandra.
Can you show us as well as we can just we'll take the video of that. Thank you so much. Can I take a picture? And do you have the pronunciation of Aleksandra?
Said it on the stand. I couldn't. I'm sitting where I couldn't hear.
No problem. Thank you.
See him from Mark.
We'll see. I'll let you know when I find out. We'll be right.
Any plans of a presser or anything when it comes to that? All right, we appreciate it. Yeah, nice.
Don't do it.
9 a.m. on Friday.
We'll come to camp. We're going to camp. Early. We don't want 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
I'd have to think that's a wrap.
Especially they kind of appeal. You know, why would they say
Got a quick interview.
Just the face.